Hello and welcome to another episode of the Construction Corner podcast. I'm Dylan, I'm your host. And guys, today I'm going to get right into it because we got four important topics to cover. I'm going to cover focus, systems for focus. I'm going to cover mentors, kind of a system around mentors, priorities, right? How to set priorities and creating a system around that, how to minimize the outside noise, and there may or may not be a bonus in here. We got four items to cover. Everything's going to be around systems, kind of piggyback on the episode that we dropped last week and patching the holes in your bucket. See, we've all got a lot of holes and we all have a lot of things that we need to correct within our own businesses, our lives, everything that we do. So, in order to do that, we need to have a system of dealing with all of those parts and pieces. And honestly, today is going to be pretty open, raw, vulnerable with you and kind of what's going on with me, how I approach a lot of this stuff, and hopefully that'll be able to help you. So, without further ado, I really like to operate by systems, processes. And the more that I stick to a system, a process, a plan, any of that, I have much better results. And I'm sure the same is true for you guys in your endeavors, that when you do stick to a system, when you do stick to a plan, when you do see it all the way through, it tends to have a pretty good result. The problem is sticking to the plan. So we have to get comfortable in, even if we're not seeing an immediate result, even if we're not seeing something today, just trusting and knowing that the plan is going to prove out. And sometimes that can be the hardest thing that you do, is just stay in the course. And it's not easy. It is not simple by any means. It should be, but mentally, psychologically, it is not. And so we need to have a way to keep ourselves in check of doing all of these things. And so for me, um, there's been a few things. One, I've gotten in this habit over the last few years of really just seeing shiny objects, thinking I'm better in one area than maybe not. For example, like marketing, right? I thought I could market and go after other business areas, other things, and be like these guys I saw on the internet. And I followed that in a way. Obviously, I still stayed in construction, still stayed in doing this podcast, still was doing software and chasing that, as well as doing a few other things. And none of them were doing really like all that well. And only here recently that I've refocused on construction, on engineering, on being a great engineer, have the tides turned for me. And so a lot of you might have this in other ways, right? You get distracted by relationships and you're not focusing things on work, right? It could be um, chasing the next girl, or having problems at home, or right, something else is distracting you. It could not be like, for me, the entrepreneur issue and shiny objects, and that something else has got to be easier than the thing that you're doing, when that is not really at all the case, right? Everything is just hard in their own ways, in different ways. And while in construction, I just have the longest tenure here, I've solved a lot of the problems. I understand the processes, I understand what we're going through, and it creates a lot of clarity around what we're doing. Now, does this industry have a ton of stress? Right? Am I stressed about the projects that are going on, the things that we're doing, worried about making mistakes, making sure that we're paying attention to every single detail, right? All those things are super important, and like they do happen, right? But those issues are going to happen in any business and anything that you end up doing. And so staying in the business that you're in, right? Staying in construction, even though it's hard, even though it's grinding work, even though it's long hours, right? Even though it's dealing with very large dollar values, the business, right? The industry, the things that you're in. And that experience, I think we really take for granted. The thing too, like when I look at the marketing world and things like that, that got me somewhat distracted a few years ago, is like guys are talking about high ticket closing and stuff like that. And it's like, 2, 5 grand, 10 grand in these quote high ticket closes. Yet in construction, we talk about $1 million deals, right? $1 billion projects. And it's like, how many, $1 million deals do I need if I'm, or how many $10,000 deals do I need to make up for this $1 million project, right? Like those are the types of things that are just, I think we lose sight of that, right? Because it's one deal that we chase for a long time, or, we've got a few in the hopper and we win one, and, we ride that for the year. And then we, maybe win one or two or three of these bigger projects and we ride those for the year. And that's kind of the way it goes, right? Or, in some cases, you might be doing one a month or something like that versus the deal volume that some of these other guys have on the internet where they're, closing whatever 2, 3 sales a day, but they're for 10 grand, right? So like the math doesn't add up, or it does, but for us in construction, like our dollar values are just so much bigger that we really forget that our one deal is worth a lot of theirs, right? Hundreds. And we just got to keep that perspective in mind as we move forward. So, in getting distracted by shiny objects, now the other thing in construction is it's going to be, to pursue those larger opportunities, you're going to have to get rid of some smaller opportunities, or you're going to have to build the systems and departments to deal with the smaller projects, the smaller opportunities, and you have higher deal flow there versus the big projects, where it might be one a quarter that you win, right? Depending on your firm size, where you're going after 10, 100, multi-$100 million projects. It might be you win one a quarter, one a every 6 months, once a year, right? Depending on your size, where like some of those small projects might be one a week, two a week, right? Things like that. And so your deal flow is going to be different. Your project flow is going to be different. Some are going to be quick cutters, some are going to be long, drawn out deals that you're just in for a long period of time. And so with that, we have like different levels of focus, different efforts, different things that we need to put in place for each of those. And so one is in like, what is our goal? What are we trying to achieve? What are we trying to do here? And everybody has their own goals and what you're trying to do. And I'm going to touch that later, but really it's the first and most important thing is creating a system for focus, right? How do you stay focused on the thing that you need to do, right? The thing that moves the needle. And for all of us is projects, right? You have some role in the projects that you're working on. Construction is a project driven industry. We deal in projects. With that, how do we focus down on the projects that we're doing? How do we make sure that the things that we're working on are the right things? And more importantly, how do we just get the things that we need to done? So, creating a system for focus. This is extremely important, and I think it's often overlooked. We've kind of touched on it here, but I haven't basically encapsulated it into a single episode, which is what I'm going to do here today. So, with that, a system for focus. Focus is super important. And what does this look like? This means the phone is off. This means that, or, a way where you can't see notifications, text messages, all that kind of stuff. Email is off, right? Outlook is closed. Your project information, everything that you need to know about that project. So this is more specifically for the design side, but it could also be for you guys in the field. But print out all the project information that you need, right? Your mechanicals again, this is going to be from an electrical guy, but your mechanical schedules are going to be in front of you to review them. Your floor plans are going to be in front of you, right? Like all the information that you need to make decisions and to design that project is going to be in front of you, printed. And then you're just going to have your design tool like Revit open, and all your internet browsers, all that stuff is closed. You might have something open for like music or whatever. Headphones are on, right? You're in the zone. And so with that, you really just focus down on doing the thing that is in front of you, right? You cut out all outside noise, outside distractions. You only have the things that you need immediately in front of you and immediately available. And that also water, coffee, whatever you're going to drink, a snack. So you don't have to get up. You don't have to do any of that kind of stuff. And this really now creates an environment to where you're able to just work for the next 3, 4, 6 hours on that project, on that thing in front of you. And really, this gets so overlooked in setting the environment to benefit you for everything that you need to do. And if we were able to do this on a maybe more regular basis, if we were able to really set aside an environment and have an environment that proves effective for us to do what we need to do, we would be able to get more done, right? So if you had your water with you and you didn't have to go up and get it every 10 minutes, right? If you drink a bunch of water, then instead of just having one water bottle, you have two or three, right? Or you drink less so you know you don't have to go pee, right? You adequately hydrate, you go to the bathroom before you start, and then you're able to then sit there and work for the next 4 hours or whatever on that project. And now in the field, this is going to be a similar thing, right? Where you're going to have all your stuff there and ready. You're going to have everything printed or your iPad without messaging on it to walk around in the field to solve problems, and or your clipboard, something to take notes with, jot things down, whatever, right? But something that allows you to not be interrupted by somebody else, right? You're not taking phone calls, you're not doing any of that stuff. And yet a lot of our business is being interrupted, is taking phone calls, but making it time for that or allowing for some of that to be done. And a lot of this just depends on your role, right? Like slotting those calls till later, get back to people quickly, making sure that you're answering things that need to be answered. So one is creating a system for focus. This ultimately comes down to your environment, right? Like shutting off email, shutting off phone notifications. Those are the two biggest things. Teams notifications, like shutting all that stuff off so that you can get what you need done. Because if you're going to be an effective engineer, teammate, then a lot of this is dedicated or dictated upon how much work you get done. And a lot of the reason we don't get work done is because we're answering emails or taking phone calls or talking through something else, which again, you could argue is also effective. But the thing is, you got projects to work on, things to do, and you're going to then need to batch like CA items and stuff like that, other emails to come in, other items in kind of a priority list, which goes into the second item I want to talk about today is in priorities, right? How do you set priorities? Now, CA items are going to be one thing. And for all you construction guys, this is what you live, eat, and breathe is, CA issues. And it's going to be somewhat in the same way of prioritizing what you need to deal with now, what you just need to push back into somebody else's court, get them a quick answer or pass it along, or whatever else you need to get done to get it out of your court and into somebody else's. A lot of this, when it comes to construction issues, there are things that are definitely urgent. There are things that are definitely important. And there's things in getting people to start the process of whatever it is that they need to do, right? We need to get pricing on this, that, and the other thing. We need to get gear ordered. We need to do this, that, whatever it is, to have an effective project. And so as we move forward, we need to understand who needs what when. We need to understand where our time constraints are, right? Where we're going to limit on time. And look, I'm not the best at this piece, right? Things take typically longer than I think they're going to take. I severely underestimate the amount of time that a project takes to get out. And I just end up working later to get it done. But in your companies and with your team, you got to have a more realistic understanding of what it is. And this is something that I continue to work on, continue to improve upon, is my estimation of how long something is going to take to get done. And so with that, you got to make sure that you have more realistic time allocation numbers of what it's going to take to get done, of what it's taken to work through that thing, and then really set aside some adequate time. A 15-minute thing is rarely a 15-minute thing. It's going to be 30, 45 minutes. You might as well just block an hour for whatever it is. It'll take you, 5 to 10 to get into it. It'll take you 10 to figure out a solution. It'll take you another 10 to write the email about it. And, before you know it, you're at 40 minutes on this quote simple thing, right? This 5-minute issue. And we see these a lot, right? These 5-minute issues that are never 5 minutes, right? It's an hour by the time it's all said and done to get to it, right? You got to get into it, find all the data, find all the information. Then you have an answer. Then you need to craft an email and a response to it to everybody that they're going to take and run with it. And that takes, 15 minutes to craft. Even though it's like 10 lines, it still needs to be well worded, well written, well thought through, because it is going to be documented. And therefore, you do need to be cognizant of what you're writing and not just sending kind of willy-nilly responses for things. So with that, in setting priorities, like a lot of this is just going to be sitting down and working through what are your deadlines? What are those project time pieces like? What's it really going to take to get that thing done? And the better idea that you can have for each of these really will help you to set priorities, to move through it adequately, and give everybody their due time to move through projects. I've always pushed myself to do things faster, more timely, to get back to people quickly. And with that, I'm finding more and more that it's better to put out deadlines that are a little further, for me anyway, a little further past when I say, and this is a total art, right? This by no means a science, but it is definitely an art of, for me, because I think I can get it done sooner. I need to set deadlines for myself and to clients that are a couple days later or a week later than I would realistically think in getting it done, because other projects come up, things happen, right? Life gets in the way. It takes longer than you really think it is. You don't get around to it until things happen, right? And so, for me personally, giving myself more time, putting that deadline out a little further has helped me to basically maintain my word, right? Do what I say I'm going to do and keep my integrity intact for executing that thing without kind of killing myself in the process. And most people are really pretty good with that, in understanding that things do take time, that it will be a process to get through, that it is something that needs to be worked through. And in that, um, everyone's happier because you're going to meet the timeline, the deadline, their expectations are met, and things tend to go a lot smoother when you do that. Again, that's for me personally in setting deadlines and expectations and helping me with prioritization of which projects I work on, not just who's yelling the loudest at that given time period. The next thing that I want to talk about is, and this has been a tough one for me, is really mentors. um, when I listen to people on podcasts and in speaking and some of the other groups that I'm a part of, um, this is something I've learned the hard way in going through these groups is, don't just take their advice at face value, right? As much as you want to and as much as you trust these people, um, I haven't done a good enough job in analyzing what they end up saying. And I got to look at my notes here, but you need to take their advice, right? But thoroughly analyze it. Um, really deconstruct what they're saying. And then also look at what they're doing. Can you see them implementing what they're talking about in their business, right? Can I see them actually doing it? Or are they doing something completely different? And then from there is, okay, I see what they're doing. I see how they're talking about it. What do they really mean here? Because I can't necessarily ask them right through the podcast, like, what do they really mean? What is like the root of that? Or maybe they don't want to go back and kind of contradict themselves, whatever it might be. So, how do I really use this advice, this thing that they're saying, that I trust that they believe it, right? That they have this belief in what they're saying, but how do I then implement this? And from there, how long will it take to implement? And again, for me, I got to probably double that for time expectations around the thing. And so what I mean by this, so this is me trying to explain at least my thought process around it, is you see somebody and you take it at face value, right? That you need to go harder, you need to push harder. What does that mean? Like, okay, you need to be, uh, don't be, don't be a turd, don't be a piece of crap. Okay, well, what does that mean, right? Like, what are these little catchisms that people say? Like, what does that really mean in my life? Like, how do I take this and implement it? So here's how I have kind of deconstructed it for my life. And this goes into setting priorities, setting up systems for focus. Um, and then really this does tie into goals, which is going to be the bonus thing that I talk about. But with mentors, it's going to be okay. So this advice, like, okay, don't be a piece of crap, be personally excellent. Um, have goals, reverse engineer your goals, all this stuff. Okay, so I've talked about it here, like in getting a yacht, right? So I need to do $1 billion in revenue to have a yacht. Okay, great. So, and I need to basically own the company in the majority so that I get, the distributions of that. If I don't, then I need to have a multi-billion-dollar company. Okay, great. You're like, okay, that's a really big goal. That's huge. And so in doing that, you're like, okay, that's a lot of stuff. But what does it really mean to get there? How do I do that? How do I for some people, right? How do I run a marathon? How do I run a 100 miler? Different goals, right? And you could take or add or remove zeros from any of these numbers. And with that, you end up being like, okay, well, I probably need to do something on a daily basis around it. I need to have a plan to execute the thing, and I need to be focused on it. So for me personally, I've also read a book here lately called Buy Back Your Time. And this is what I've taken from that and then basically reverse engineered and reapplied it to everything that the mentors talked about, right? Personal excellence, being focused on it, staying in it for a long time, not switching industries or anything like that. So what this has done for me is my time is best in the morning, right? I am most focused, most productive in the mornings. And then I also have like another stint in the afternoon, like midday. I'm kind of like, I get just tired out. I need lunch basically and a break. I need a mental break from the day and lunch, with that, I need 30 minutes. It's really what it amounts to. I need 30 minutes, eat, watch some uh for me, it's business content to kind of just switch gears, take my mind out of the projects that I'm in, and then I will be able to re-engage in the afternoons. So with that, I have any calls for the most part, some client meetings I still have to take, but for the most part, I have removed any like calls and meetings in the mornings, pushed them all to at least afternoon. And that has really helped to improve my mornings, my productivity, my ability to produce. Because where all of my value comes, and I've done something called a time audit, is to write down all the things that you do on a daily basis. And you have basically four buckets that everything goes into is, do you delegate this, right? Do you replace yourself? So basically train somebody to do the thing that you're doing. Is this an investment piece, right? Like lunch, reading, running, working out? Is it, spending time with my wife, right? Or is this my production quadrant? And so the production quadrant is like the thing that you enjoy doing that actually makes you money. And for a lot of us, that's doing our jobs, being in projects, doing the things that we want to do on a daily basis and the things that we get paid for. And so doing more of that, getting better at it will allow us to get paid more in the future, and getting paid more in the future will help us to reach our monetary goals, right? Whatever that is, to buy the boat, to buy the new house, to, go on that trip to wherever. And through that, I think and me especially, and this is the trap that I've put myself in, is focusing too much on the end goal thing, right? Focusing too much on yachts or this or that, or, for some of you, it might be cars or houses or the trip, right? Whatever that thing is, versus becoming great at the thing that you do, right? Excelling at your craft. And if I had just focused more over the last however many years on becoming great at my craft, becoming the best engineer that I possibly could be, marketing would have solved itself, right? Like there's a lot of these things that kind of solve themselves once you become great at your craft. And while I am very good at what I do, like there's always more levels to become excellent, right? There's always room for improvement. There's always things that I could do better. There's always code updates that I need to stay on top of, right? Like all of these things are areas that I could have continued to improve in, and it would have exponentially increased my value over time in that compounding, right? Not in days or weeks or months, but in years. And with that, exponential increase in talent and skill and knowledge and reps through becoming and being a better engineer, you are able to take on more projects. You're able to be more effective, more efficient, not just with software and the things that I do to automate that and increase productivity, but in communicating to clients, seeing their needs, going through their problems, right? Like all of that types of stuff is something that, had I just focused on and stayed with becoming the best possible version of myself in the thing that I am great at, right? That I basically label myself as, right? Like I am an engineer. And so in labeling myself an engineer, if I become the best engineer, electrical engineer, MEP, leader, whatever label that I want to put on myself, then that allows me to go through the world and having more confidence in what I do, becoming better at what I do, getting more reps in what I do. And this goes for if you're an operator of heavy equipment, it goes for if you're managing projects, right? You're a project manager for on a construction company, for an owner's rep, within a design firm, wherever your role is. If you just put more time, effort, energy, focus into becoming the best possible version of whatever it is that you do, over time, your rewards and your benefits will be far greater than splitting your time and attention to other things. But this doesn't mean that you like ignore family or ignore your fitness or your health or any of those areas. This means that while you're at work, you do the best possible that you can at work. And then you leave, put in all these systems for focus, right? You shut off email, you shut off your phone, you do the things that you need to do, you get it all done, and you help teammates for everything that you do. And then that allows you to, because you're great at it, you get paid more, people value you more, right? You're able to get things done. So people value the output that you provide. Then you go work out, right? Or work out in the mornings before you go to work. So you stay fit. You then spend time with your family and the ones that you love so that you have good personal relationships and things that fill you up, which then allows you to, again, show up to work the next day and do your best and continue to put out at a high level and continue this cycle. And for me, in mentors and systems and priorities, it's always it I've kind of recently put this thing together where if you're just the best of you, right? You ignore the outside world, you ignore things that are outside of your control, right? This is one of the things that we deal with in outside noise is, will this thing impact your life? If it will, what can you do about it? And then if you can't do anything, well, you can't do anything about it. And then if you're not going to do anything about it, that's basically the same as you can't do anything about it. So why worry about things that you can't control or aren't going to do anything about to control? Now you're just bitching and complaining about it. So that does nothing for you but take up mental bandwidth, emotional energy, right? Like it just drains you of any productive action, right? It distracts you from what you're doing. And it's not to say to not be informed about the world and all this stuff, but does a war on the other side of the world really affect you? It doesn't, because you're not fighting it, you're not in it. Now, if you have family in it and stuff like that, then you can be concerned for them and outreach them, but they're in it, right? You're not. you're here. You need to live your life today and do the things that you need to do today so that ultimately, and this comes down to having more resources, being more valuable in the marketplace, being just better at your craft, versus getting distracted by things that you have no control over and or don't want to get involved in. Um, and that's really where this comes down to. There's so many distractions, so many things going on in the world, and I've been guilty of getting involved in that, putting too much headspace into it, where I'm not gonna really get involved in uh a lot of that local, like, just I'm not going to get involved in politics, right? That's not my value to the world. My value to the world is sharing what I know here on the podcast. My value is being an engineer and solving problems. um, and then just being a good person, helping others in my community. Like, that is where my value lies, is being the best possible version I can, doing things that inspire others, right? Running these long distance races to inspire people to go and do their first one. As this airs, uh, basically next weekend, I'm going to be running a 50K in Lake Tahoe. And I'm doing that with a buddy who it'll be his first 50K, first ultra marathon, first trail run that he's doing. I got him to run his first marathon. I ran it with him. And like, that's inspiring. That changes his life. Then he's going to make the ripple to, other people's run with him, right? He got his girlfriend to run her first half marathon, right? So it ripples out from there. And like, that effect of changing one person's life for the better, right? Then he inspires his team with his running, and that creates a whole other kind of ripple effect out into the world. And I think a lot of us really underestimate the impacts that we individually can have to the world from our own individual actions, right? How many people around you are affected by the things that you do? Um, like, my wife now reads a crap ton of books and, a lot of fantasy, but like, now her friends are reading more and more, right? They've turned off the TV and now they're reading, a lot of fiction books more and more. And one, it's way better for your brain, cognitive activity, whatever you think about it. I mean, it's like, if you're gonna be in a fictionalized story, whether it's TV or books, I prefer books because you're going to use your brain more to create the imagery around it. It's better for your mental health, right? Like, there's so many more benefits to just reading books than watching TV. So, like, for whatever it's worth, but now her friends are doing it, then they have a community around it, right? Like, then they're talking about it, then it creates a better sense of being, like, they feel connected around these things. And like, that's important. Like, sense of community is important. A passion is important. You talking to your friends about your contracting business is important, right? You sharing the lessons with guys on how to get through permit process, or what this AHJ wants or that AHJ wants. Like, that sense of community for your local guys is super important. And like, I got a buddy that I went to high school with back in Oregon who started his own contracting business and doing land clearing and excavation. Now he's doing sewer and septic work and a lot of other stuff. And it's really cool to hear about his journey and what he's going through. And I can help him in some ways, and um through what I've been doing. And I can only do that because of the experience that I have and the commitment to being excellent in the things that I do. And a lot of what I've gone through is just being too distracted, man. Like, too distracted about the outside world and things that, like, I'm not playing the game of politics. Like, I'm not trying to be a politician. I'm not trying to run for all this stuff. Do I disagree with a lot of things that, like, things are going on in politics? Yeah, but like, does that deserve my headspace? No. Like, running a better engineering firm, that deserves my headspace. That deserves all of my time, effort, and energy. Sharing and documenting those lessons, like I'm doing right here now for you guys, that deserves my headspace, right? Like, you reduce that outside noise. It allows you to focus on the things that you need to focus on. It allows you to understand the priorities and when and how you need to execute the projects that you need to work on, what you need to work on, what's more important in your life, in your business. Because when you reduce that outside noise, you go back to 1990, 1975, right? Like, you knew what was important. It was work, family, right? Family, work, church, right? Like that, those were the important things in your life. And it was pretty much in one of those orders, right? For some, at some point, church was probably more important. Your faith was probably more important than your family or work. For some guys, it was work first, then uh, family, then, their faith life. For other guys, it might have been, well, the bar was most important, then work, then family, and they didn't have faith life, right? Like, whatever that is for you, like, those are the like four pillars of pretty much any of our existence, well, really three, right? You cut out the bar, but it's work, family, and community, right? Like those three are going to be the most important things to you. And whether that community is at your church, your um, community center, the Elks, Masons, whatever organization that you're a part of, like those things are going to be more important to one, your community, you as a person, your fulfillment, like however you feel about you and what you're doing. You're going to be more impacted by doing things in your local community than doing anything else. And I think that like this gets so missed that we're focused on the rest of the world, when if we turn off our phones and walk outside and go to our local meetings, right? Go to our local events, go to our local people, go to our things in person, shake hands, have dinner with folks. Like that is so important. And it gets so thrown out in modern society. And you just see the depression rates and everything else of people because they don't get out and talk to other people in their community, right? You don't shake hands, you don't pick up the phone, you don't call people, you don't have that sense of connectedness, and it really hurts, man. It really, really hurts. So again, have that focus, have priorities, cut down the outside noise. um with mentors and with advice that you take from people, make sure to really dissect it, take some notes, really work through it, really understand where they're coming from. Do they implement this? How do they implement it? Why does it work for them? What makes the thing that they're doing special, right? What are the core elements that did make it succeed, right? Like these are all the things you got to really think about this stuff, guys. You can't just like I have like don't do what I've done and take it at face value and run with it without putting as much thought as you probably should into that thing. Um, like for example, the powerless is super effective tool for getting a lot of things done, right? And getting those 5 things done a day. And in our world, those 5 things are going to take probably a considerable amount of time, right? I need to work on this project. And a lot of the stuff for me in like the powerless and how I've talked about it, uh, and this is not like Andy approved or any of that. Like I'm not trying to take his thing, but like in my world, in the engineering world, like you have basically one big project to work on, and you may or may not solve that thing in the day. So like you just need to put time towards the project, right? You might not solve that function, that problem, that um, thing that you're trying to work on, right? But you just need to put time towards it, dedicated time, focus time towards the thing to move it forward. And I think that gets also lost within the powerless as well. I need to complete, this whole project today. It's like, no, I need to put, 2, 3, 4 hours of dedicated time towards this project today. Like that is the powerless item. And really for a lot of us in our business and whatever, it's, doing that dedicated time towards those projects, making that phone call for this one project. It's, making sure that we work out, that we eat right, that we make sure to spend some undistracted time with our family and our loved ones, right? Like if you hit those 5 things in a day, like your day is usually pretty good, man. It's making a couple calls, checking up on email, making sure you get back to people, then, working out, keeping your diet good, and hanging out with your family, right? Spend dedicated time undistracted from work and the rest of the world, and being present at that ball game, going to that practice, doing that family thing. And I think if we do more of those things, that we'll feel more fulfilled. And as a byproduct of this, and I've talked about it before, the why, what, how, right? Asking a how question is a lot easier to solve your goals, right? Like, how do I create $100 billion MEP firm, right? How do I create $1 billion MEP firm? How do I create a $1 million design firm, right? Like, or a construction firm, or 10 million, or whatever your number is, right? Like, how do you create this thing is a much easier question, because now you're in solution mode, right? Like, what do I need to do? What do I need to do to become a $100 million firm? How do I become a $100 million firm, right? Why am I doing this? Well, so I can get the thing. At the end of the day, what I've come to is you just maintaining focus on being excellent will produce all the results that you want, right? Like, if you are excellent at being a contractor and you are in your production zone. So this is something that Dan Martell talks about in his book, Buy Back Your Time, is if you're in your production quadrant, right, the thing that you love doing, the thing that makes you money, and you've basically delegated and or replaced yourself and everything else. So for business owners or even somebody in a team, this means that, like, training the guy behind you to do the thing that you're doing that you are good at but don't love, right? So it's all about buying back your time, in that you want to put yourself in a place where you're executing on the things that you love to do. And what this means is that, like, if you hate bookkeeping, if you hate invoicing, if you hate accounting, like, hire somebody to do that. If you have a specific project type that you just hate doing, hire somebody to do that, right? Like, train them, right? Record yourself doing the thing, like explaining it, walking through it, all that kind of stuff, so you can hand that training material over to other people. Which in last week's episode, Matt talked about systems and creating a playbook and having that video format. I mean, this is like literally, this podcast is recorded on a Zoom deal. So, like, you basically launch a Zoom meeting, you share your screen, you use your microphone and everything else that you talk about. You do the work that you're doing already, you talk through it as if you were training somebody, and now it is a living, breathing video file of you walking through the thing that you're doing. It is literally that simple. It's a free piece of software that you already use, and now you can bank it into your training content and library, and you have it forever to train people to do the next thing, right? So if you're good at it but don't love it, this is the type of thing that you want to replace yourself over time um, in, right? And Matt talks about this for him as, he can manage projects. He can be a project manager. He is not the best at it. His time is better suited in meeting clients, getting projects, right? Doing contracts, that kind of stuff. And even the contract stuff, I'm sure, Matt is still very good at doing those things, but that's what he also has attorneys for. So he has delegated out his project management to others so that he can do what he is best at and grow the company. And so for a lot of us, we have that thing that we are the best at, right? It could be accounting, right? It could be doing uh, sales, right? And getting new projects. It could be in managing projects that we love the details and figuring everything out. It could be that we're a great engineer and going through and doing that stuff. It could be that we're a good manager and making sure that everything gets done and everybody on the team has what they need, right? We all have our sweet spot of where people fit within the team. And then it's just for you, again, if you're the owner, leader, manager, whatever, is to find ways that you're able to buy back your time, right? Like, usually I tell people to start at home, right? Cook, clean, dishes, meal prep, laundry, like all of those basics things are the things that are the easiest, the cheapest to buy back your time so that you can work on the other things, right? If you came home to a clean house and laundry was all done and dishes were all put away and you had meals prepped and like all that kind of stuff, like, how much better would your quality of life be? And those are the easy things for most of us to understand, to get through. And then we find other things within our businesses, within our projects, within our teams to delegate things off to people that are better suited for it than we are. Again, keeping the things that we most enjoy on our own plates so that we have basically our days filled with the things that we enjoy the most. That's ultimately what we're trying to get to here, is to have things that we enjoy the most. And by doing that, in the things that we enjoy the most, that we're most productive at, that make us money, is we'll make the most money and be the happiest doing it. Right. That's ultimately the goal here. I talk about a yacht and all that, but I just love what that symbolizes, the embodiment of a super yacht and the person that I have to be to get there. And so for a lot of us is that thing, ultimately that yacht, I will probably spend very little of my time on it because I will enjoy being with my team. I will enjoy doing projects. I will enjoy doing all this other stuff that got me to the point where I could afford to have a yacht. And so for a lot of us, for a lot of these things, it all comes down to being great at your craft and focusing on it. And if you're able to do that and you're able to do it for a long enough time, I believe, and I have seen from others, and I am on the path now of doing this, and I'm documenting it here, that staying in those trenches, doing the things for a very long time, um, getting in all of the repetitions on it, is that you will achieve all of your goals. You will be great at it. And then by basically delegating and hiring others and replacing yourself in the things that you do not like to do, you will have a better quality of life. You'll be happy with the things that you're doing. And ultimately, you're going to be super productive. You'll make more money, and just live a better life, man. And so I want to leave you with this in this episode is you got to create some systems around it, do some time audits, right? Document where you spend your time in 15 to 30-minute blocks throughout your day, and it'll be super valuable for you. Shut off your phone and turn off all your distractions, get the things you need to done. And then when you go home, live your life, do the things that you want to do, spend time with the people that you want to spend time with. And when you kind of eliminate the outside noise of the world and focus on your own life, the things that you have going on in your world, and not worrying about anybody else, any other politics or things that just don't even come close to affect you, right? If you don't live in California, then don't worry about California shit. If I live in California, like I worry about California stuff. I talk to people about California things. I inform people about what's going on here, right? We have there's a problem with a road in our community. Like those are the things that we talk about, is the stuff going on in our neighborhoods, right? You should do the same. You shouldn't be worried about what's going on out here. You should just worry about what's going on in your world. Like in Indiana, I shouldn't worry about California wildfires, right? When I lived there, I worried about Indiana things. I worried about the potholes in Indianapolis, right? Like those were the things that we worry about. So worry about your own world, your own community, and if everybody does that and takes care of their own neighborhoods, communities, all the people that they're around, not only will your world be better, but as a ripple effect, our whole country, nation, world will be better. So take care of you, your people, everyone around you, your community, and go out, have those conversations, be a good dude, and I don't know, life just gets a heck of a lot better. I've noticed it for me. Hopefully, it'll do the same for you. And until next time, guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Construction Corner podcast. Share with a friend. If you got anything out of today's episode, was a little vulnerable today and opened up to you guys. So, again, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.